Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some of the stocks on the move today in Europe. I'm Stephen Carroll and we're joined now by Bloomberg's breaking news editor Louise Moon. Louise, good morning. Let's start with bank stocks then, dragging on the stock 600.
They are indeed, and the two main ones that we're really looking at here is Lloyds and HSBC, both down quite heavily into the red this morning for very different reasons. So I'll cover them both separately. So Lloyds, firstly, they issued a warning this morning saying they have to set aside more money, and that's to compensate customers over the ongoing, long-running car loan saga in the UK. So just to recap, that the UK's FCA, the regulator, said they expect banks or relevant auto lenders to take about an £11 billion hit, and that's to compensate customers. This is less than expected, but obviously still hefty. And Lloyds have responded to that this morning, saying that they have to set aside more cash. They've already set aside over £1 billion, but they say that this new provision might be material. So they didn't actually say exactly how much more they're going to have set aside, but that it might be material. And there's some estimates that's saying it could be as much as about £500 million. So shares are down, wiping out yesterday's gains. As I say, it was originally taken as quite positive news because it was a smaller hit than expected for the wider industry. And then secondly, HSBC planning to take their Hong Kong unit Hang Seng Bank private. So they're going to buy out minority investors. They'll spend about $14 billion on that. But as a result, to kind of have enough cash for this, to finance this, they're going to refrain from buybacks for the next 3 quarters. So shareholders not reacting positively to that. So shares fell both in London and in Hong Kong where they're listed.
Okay, let's go next to Frankfurt and an IPO, Ottobock.
Yeah, so Ottobock's a really interesting firm. It's prosthetics firms. They make things like artificial limbs. They've actually partnered with the Paralympics since 1988, interestingly. So they listed in Frankfurt this morning. It's the biggest IPO in Germany in over a year. And shares they've risen higher. At one point, they're about 11% higher than the offering price. And that was at €66 a share, which was the top end of the range. So they raised about just over €700 million for their IPO. So as I say, the biggest one in Germany in more than a year. So a welcome boost to Germany. And then it also follows Ferrari that listed in Stockholm yesterday. And that was the biggest European debut since 2022. So good news this week, essentially, for quite a lot of European exchanges. And this one's Ottobock.
Okay, and Louise, you've also been looking at Ferrari.
Yes, so they have scaled back their electric ambitions, essentially. So they now expect only 20% of their 2030 lineup is going to be fully electric. That's half of what they previously expected. They had expected 40%. And essentially, they're filling that gap with their their combustion cars. So that will now be 40%. So they're doubling their combustion offerings, essentially showing kind of a renewed focus on engines. And that has obviously defined Ferrari for decades. So they're kind of going back to their core, following a lot of other car makers that have also pulled back from electric ambitions. It's obviously very expensive. There's been kind of a failure to get enough customers. So Ferrari shares are dropping on this. They dropped almost 2% this morning. We'll be keeping a close eye on them, though, throughout the morning because they've got a capital markets day and they're planning to announce their financial targets. So an interesting one from Ferrari.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.